Economics, paper 2 of May, June 2020. Read the source material carefully before answering question 1. Source material, the challenge facing Pakistan. Pakistan fact file. We have the table there. Let's just go to the paragraph. Pakistan faces a number of economic challenges. This includes responding to a rising population, improving its trade in goods balance, controlling the country's inflation rate, and increasing the country's economic growth rate. To overcome these challenges, the Pakistan government is trying to increase investment. Currently, a high proportion of the country's source are used to produce consumer goods. The government is subsidizing entrepreneurs and charities to open low-cost schools. It wants to reduce the dropout rate from schools and to raise educational standards. Some parents do not recognize the advantages that the merit goods such as education can give their children. For example, better health and better job opportunities. Some of the poor need their children to work from a young age to support the family. Government reforms have not yet led to a significant rise in teachers' wages, but have improved school buildings and the number of children attending. The qualification required to teach may be increased in the future. Improved education may affect the number of skilled workers who emigrate and may raise the quantity and quality of goods and services produced. Any resulting higher income may influence the value of imports purchased. We have the value here. Then Pakistan has relatively high import tariffs. Revenue from import tariffs is 45% of total tax revenue. The tariffs on vehicles, some of which have inelastic demand, are particularly high. Future Pakistani tariffs may be influenced by changes in other countries' trade policies, as well as other factors. Answer all parts of question A, refer to the source material in your answers. The first question says, calculate Pakistan's trade in goods balance in 2017. For trade in goods, it's the total exports, total export minus imports. So we have our export for 2017 to be 25. Exports in goods is 25.2 minus 61.7. So we have a deficit there. So the export in trade deficit, which is minus 36.5 billion. Question 2. They said, identify 2 possible causes of demand pull inflation. When we talk about demand pull inflation, we're talking about inflation that occurs as a result of increase in the total aggregate demand in the economy. So one of the reasons why we could have demand pull inflation is increased investment in capital goods. As capital goods as investment in capital goods increases, the incentive to consume more increases. So that could lead to demand pull inflation. And 2, increase in household incomes. As household income increases, the purchasing power increases and they want to buy more. That could lead to demand pull inflation. And you talk about cuts in tax. Cut in income tax. A cut in income tax would increase disposable income. As disposable income increases, level of consumption increases, which could lead to demand pull inflation. Go to question C. Explain the opportunity cost to Pakistan of producing consumer goods. So basically, we have consumer goods and capital goods. So first, what is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is the next best alternative for gum. So here in this case study, Pakistan is focusing on investing in consumer goods, which means Pakistan won't be able to produce or have capital goods. So the capital goods that is not produced or invested upon is the opportunity cost. That's it done. We go to question D. Explain 2 reasons why education is a merit good. What are merit goods? Merit goods are goods that without government intervention or government producing them, we cannot all have them. Example is education and healthcare. So basically what I wrote here is about sometimes for merit goods. So first I said education is a merit good because without government intervention, some people might not be able to consume it. So that's one. So that means you won't have access to it. We are not all going to have access to it if government is not producing it. And so sometimes people do under-consume it as they don't understand the benefits of what it means because they don't pay for it. Or virtually it's like almost free.
So they don't give value for it.
Right? They don't they don't understand the benefit of it because they don't really pay for it. Just like free or government schools, road network. So you under consume it because you don't know the benefit of it. Unlike when you have to pay for those things, unlike when they are economic goods that you have to pay for, you value it and you understand it well. So go to question E. Analyze why the children of poor families tend to receive less education than the children of the rich family. So children of poor families tend to receive less education than those of the rich family based on the following reasons. One, poor families are likely to have difficulty in paying. And what is being said here is that almost all the schools in Pakistan are private schools, which means their prices will be high. So for those in the poor family, from the poor family, they might not be able to afford it. So the children of the poor may not attend school as they might have to help their family or support their family. So that's another reason. So we go to 1F. It says analyze the relationship between GDP per head and imports per head. So we go back to the table. We have the country, we have the GDP per head of each country mentioned, and we have the imports per head. So when looking at the analysis, definitely there's a direct relationship between GDP per head and imports per head. That's the first point. So the second point is that Norway has the highest income per head, and it has spent so much, it has spent the most in imports too. So the second point I make is that the relationship shows that as income level rises, people tend to spend more on imports. So based on what we have here, that is the point. And the third point I made is about IT. IT has the lowest GDP per head and it has the lowest imports per head. So that's about that. Go to 1G.
Is there something? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we go to 1G. Said discuss whether or not an increase in imports. No. Discuss whether or not. They said discuss whether or not the supply of teachers in Pakistan is likely to increase in the future. So the supply of teachers in Pakistan is likely to increase in the future based on the following reason. One, the population in Pakistan is increasing. So based on the case study, based on the extract, the population in Pakistan is increasing. And the population is increasing, it means that the labor force would increase, which means the supply of teachers might increase. That was the first point. The second point I made here is about the education standards may improve, which may increase the number of people who qualifies to be teachers. Because the Pakistan government is trying to invest on education. And if education is invested on, it means that qualified teachers with qualified people might emerge and they might want to take up teaching job. That's another reason why supply of labor or teachers might increase. The third point I made there is about the working condition. If the working condition improves, it might increase the number of workers who wants to become a teacher. And based on what they said here, they said they are trying to improve on the buildings in Pakistan. And if buildings are conducive, this might become an incentive for people to want to work as teachers. I think that point is clear. So question H. They said, discuss whether or not an increase in its import tariffs will be likely to benefit the Pakistani economy. So when you talk about import tariffs, that means taxes on imports. So yeah, as I said, an increase in import tariff might benefit the Pakistani economy based on the following is one, the demand for imports will reduce, which means trade deficit will reduce because Pakistan is already having trade deficit, which means that the import of goods is more than the export of exceeds the export of goods. So tariffs imposing tariff will mean that the trade deficit might reduce. That's the first point there. The second point I mentioned is that government might make tax revenue through importation or through imposition of tariffs. So tax revenue of government might increase. And if tax revenue increases as a result of imposition of importations, the government would finance government spending on maybe education and healthcare, which is good for the economy. The third point I made is about the protectionism, because when government impose taxes on importation, it means government wants to protect the infant industries or the local industry. And if this is done, it means that the local industry might be able to grow and exploit economies of scale, which might make them to become competitive, internationally
So
competitive.
the GDP will increase.
Yeah, because output will increase.
Yeah.
Because as soon as the local industry are able to to sustain or to maintain their operations, and they are able to expand their production scale, it means that there will be economies of scale, which will lead to an buying in bulk, and the output will increase, increasing their GDP. I think that is clear. Go to question 2. Each question is introduced by a stimulus material. Okay, no, just go to the question. Listen. The Indian government has declared that the country now a major car producer will sell only electric cars by 2030. The government wants to reduce external costs, some of which are caused by petrol and diesel cars. The demand for electric cars is currently relatively low and price elastic. The government, however, thinks that it will not need to subsidize the production of electric cars to achieve its targets. The first question, define external cost. So external cost is social cost minus private cost. You could say that, and you could say external cost, the actions and inaction of firms or individuals or government that causes harm to the third party. So whichever way you say it, you get the point. The second point, they said explain 2 influences on whether demand for a product is price elastic or price inelastic. For what is elasticity? We're talking about the degree of responsiveness between the quantity demanded of a product or supply of a product as a result of a change in price. So for the demand for, I wrote here, the demand for a product can be elastic or price inelastic due to the following reasons. One, because we're talking about demand there, so we're talking about availability of substitutes. So if a product has close substitutes, so that means consumers have many choices to make.
Yes.
As a result of that, if the price of that product increases, consumers might switch to buying its substitutes. So such products will have a price elastic demand. So the demand for such product will be price elastic, because as soon as the price increases, consumers will start buying from its rivals or competitors. But if the product does not have close substitutes, then the demand for such product will be price inelastic. Is it clear?
Yes.
So another point about the factor is the proportion of income spent on such products. So the amount of money you spend on a product might determine if the price of the product, if the demand for the product is price elastic or inelastic. What I'm saying is this: let's assume you earn 1,000 and you used to buy pen for $1 or 1 dinar. So 1 dinar is just nothing from your level of your income. So if it increases to 1.5, you might still continue to buy the quantity you used to buy, because the proportion of what you spend, to get the pen is nothing to what you earn. Did you get it? So the proportion of income spent on a product might determine if the product has a price elastic or inelastic demand. Is it clear?
Yes.
So that's about that. They said 2 points. So we'll go to question 3. Now C, they said analyze using demand and supply diagram. He said analyze using demand and supply diagram how a subsidy given to producers could affect the market for electric cars. So first, what is subsidy? Subsidy is financial help from government to help producers so that their cost of production could reduce. So if government is giving subsidy, this reduces the cost of production for for producers of cars. As a result of that, the price of cars will fall, increasing the quantity supplied in the market and shifting the supply curve rightward. Do you get it? Subsidy will reduce the cost of production. As cost of production reduces, price of a product will fall. As price falls, it also increases the quantity supplied in the market, shifting the supply curve rightward. So I have the graph already here. This is it. I think it's clear. So the graph is analyzed The analysis is the subsidy will reduce the cost of production for electric cars, for electric car producers. This will reduce the price of cars from P1 to P2, shifting the quantity supplied right off from S1 to shifting the supply curve right off from S1 to S2, and the quantity supplied in the market will expand from Q1 to Q2. That's the analysis. Is it clear? Is it clear, please?
Yes.
Question D.
Yeah, question D.
Yeah. They said discuss whether cars should be produced by the private sector or the public sector. Here, basically, we're talking about the advantages, and if you are supporting the private sector, then you have to talk about the benefits of using the private sector. And if you are supporting the public sector, you have to talk about the problems of the private sector and the benefits of the public sector. So yeah, I said cars should be produced by the private sector based on the following reasons. One, the public sector is sometimes inefficient. The public sector is sometimes inefficient. And if the public sector is inefficient, cars need more quality and more efficiency. So it's not something that you can leave in the hands of the public sector. So producing it with greater quality will be done better with the private sector. Is it clear?
Yes.
That's the first point. The second point I make is that the market for cars will be more competitive, which might reduce the price of cars. So if it's in the public sector, that means it could become monopoly, because it's only government that is producing it. That's a monopoly. It might tend to increase prices. But if it's in the private sector, it becomes competitive. So different companies could come in and set up in that industry. So that might reduce the price of cars. That's another reason why private sector is fine. And the third point I mean is about the private sector is more profit-oriented. As a result, there's incentive to produce quality cars to meet the customer needs and wants. The public sector do not think about profit. They just want to take care of they want to make sure that the society is fine. So they might not put into consideration quality that cars needed. But the private sector, they will, because they are profit-oriented. So they have the incentive to produce quality cars, because they know if they produce quality, it will be sold and they can make more profit. That's the third point. And the last one I made about the private sector, in support of the private sector, is that the private sector can raise finance easily, as it can sell shares to the public. Public sector cannot sell shares, but private sector could become a public limited company and sell shares, which means they can easily raise finance. The public sector might need to wait or raise revenue through taxes to get it.
Yes.
So that's the point about that. Hold on, please. We'll go to question 3.
Yeah.
Well, it said a number of countries are withdrawing high-value banknotes. For instance, Singapore. Plans to stop issuing its 10,000 notes. High-value notes were originally intended to act as a convenient store of value, which is a function of money. Central banks are concerned some notes are now being used illegally. So the Singapore Police Force and the Monetary Authority of Singapore, its central bank, we are trying to recruit more workers in 2017. It was expected that the central bank would raise the rate of interest in 2018. So the value of the currency, the value of the Singapore currency is falling. As a result of that, they want to use interest rates, because as interest rate increases, there will be incentive to save more.
Yes.
Instead of spending more. So money in circulation would reduce. And that would give value to the money. So they said states 2 functions of money other than a store of value. So we have money can serve as a medium of exchange. That means you can use money to buy goods and services. And it's also a measure of value. Not a store of value, a measure of value now, which is a unit of account.
Measure of value and what you say?
Medium of exchange. And it is also it can be used as a standard of deferred payment. So these are functions of money. I think it's clear.
Yeah.
So go to the second question. It said, explain 2 advantages banknotes have as a form of money. So we're talking about the function or the characteristic of money. So the first one I talked about portability. Banknotes are easily carried about. Banknotes,
Flexible.
yeah, you can carry them around. It's portable. Homogeneous. So each currency denomination has the same unique shape, value, and color.
What is the
So
word?
1 dinar, homogeneous.
Homogeneous.
It means the value of the currency, like 10 dinars. 10 dinars here is the same as 10 dinars anywhere in Tripoli, in Libya. And the color is the same, the shape is the same, the size is the same. That's homogeneous. We could talk about divisibility. Banknotes can be divided, can be splitted in different denominations.
Or visible.
Do you understand?
It's visible, right?
Divisibility.
Yeah,
divisibility.
no, yeah,
You can have 5, you can have 1 dinars, you can have 10 dinars, 20 dinars.
There's the, yeah.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
So go to question 3. C. They said, analyze the influence on the mobility of workers. So when we talk about the mobility of workers, what are the factors that influence the mobility of workers? This was what I was talking about yesterday, about mobility, about my occupation and the rest. So here they said, analyze the influence on the mobility of workers. So I said the mobility of workers depends on the following influences. 1, occupational mobility. And when we talk about occupational mobility, we're talking about the ability that individuals have to be able to switch from one job to another. And this will be as a result of education. So here I wrote occupational mobility. This might be influenced through education. As workers have more qualification, they become flexible, and it becomes easy for them to choose different kinds of jobs because of education. Do you get the point here?
Yeah.
I'm talking about occupational mobility of labor here. For occupational mobility, it can be influenced by education. The more educated you become, the more qualified you are. As a result of that, it gives you more opportunity to choose different kinds of jobs. That is occupational mobility through education. Then the second point is about occupational mobility through training. So as workers become more trained, it adds up to their skills, their knowledge, their expertise. That gives them the flexibility to do any kind of jobs. So that is also occupational mobility. I think that is clear. And the third point I'm making is about geographical mobility. So for geographical mobility, I wrote geographical mobility, this might be influenced by family ties. A lot of people find it difficult to move from one country to another, like the example I gave to you. They find it difficult to move from one country to another because they are attached. They are so much attached to their family. So if they have to move with their family. So these are the factors that influence occupational mobility. We have geographical mobility, which could be based on family ties. We have occupational mobility, which could be influenced by education. We have occupational mobility, which could be influenced by training. Is it clear?
Occupational mobility.
The ability of people to switch from one job to another.
So basically, there's training and education.
There's geographical and occupational.
Yeah, I get it.
Those two will give you mobility of workers. So mobility could be your movement, you being able to move from one country to another for job. Okay. Occupational mobility means you being able to switch from one job to another. I was a banker, now I'm a teacher. That is occupational mobility. I was working in Nigeria, now I'm here. That is geographical mobility.
There's like 2 types of occupational mobility.
There are 2 types of mobility here. There's occupational mobility and geographical mobility. So I did both. Moving from Nigeria down here is geographical mobility, and switching from being a banker to a teacher is occupational mobility.
So the 2 in 1.
2 in 1, yeah. Is it clear?
Yes.
So that's about that. We'll go to 3D. It said, analyze, discuss whether or not the central bank should raise the rate of interest.
In this case, right?
Yes. In this case, now, yes, in this case, and it might not be in this case. It's a question that you can, it's an open-ended question.
They didn't specify.
Yeah, they didn't specify. So here they said, discuss whether or not a central bank should raise the rate of interest. For me, I said the central bank should not raise the rate of interest based on the following reasons. Yes. 1, it may reduce the economic growth. Why will it reduce economic growth? Due to high price of borrowing, firms might not be able to invest because the price of borrowing has increased. As a result, their cost of production would rise.
GDP will decrease.
They won't be able to produce. Yeah, it will lead to a reduction in their output. Do you get the point there?
Yes.
So that's the first point. So the second point I made is that high price of borrowing will reduce firms' ability to invest on capital goods because it's expensive.
Yeah.
So the third point is that it may raise the exchange rate as demand for the country's currency will increase, leading to less export. Because as soon as the interest rate increases, the exchange rate will increase.
So that will be the no exports.
Yeah, as soon, because if the exchange rate increases, they will do more of imports than exports, and that could lead to a deficit in the balance of payments.
Because the currency is going to be like
the currency is going to add more value, yes, but it affects the export, and export must be more. Export must increase, not import.
So to be
to have
deficit.
Yes, it will be trade deficit.
Trade deficit, yeah, trade deficit.
Is it clear?
Yes.
And the last point I make is about I said it may reduce household spending as their purchasing power would reduce, and that aggregate demand in the economy will fall.
Yes.
Living standard will fall. I think it's clear. We'll go to question 4. In 2017, the Japanese government announced improvements to its tax system. The amount of tax raised is influenced by the size and the age distribution of the country's population. Japan's birth and death rates are falling. Its population is aging, and it has low immigration. Overall, Japan's population is decreasing. That's the summary. Yeah. So state two qualities of a good tax. One of the qualities of a good tax is that it is flexible. Another one is that it is convenient. Another one is that it is equitable. That means it's equal.
Good tax.
Yeah. Is it clear? Flexibility, convenience, equal, equitable. Also, it should be accountable for. Do you understand?
Yes.
So we'll go to question B. Explain two causes of a decrease in the death rate. A decrease in the death rate can be based on one, better healthcare. If there's better healthcare, that might result in investment, which might be as a result of investment in health facility. Yeah. So that would increase, that will reduce death rate. Yes. And second point I made is about the rise in the level of income. So if the level of income increases, it makes you to be able to, to eat balanced diet, to be able to care for yourself, and that could elongate a person's life.
And there will be less crime because
it reduces crime, less crime. Yeah, level of income increases, crime will reduce, and people might not be dying. I think that is clear. Yes. We go to C. We said analyze using the production possibility curve diagram the effect of a decrease in population size on an economy. So if the population size of an economy reduces, that means resources are not fully utilized or fully employed in that country. Do you understand? So the PPC will have an inward shift. So the PPC will have an inward shift. It will be inward. So the analysis I made is this. A decrease in the size of the population may reduce the size of the labor force, which means that the productive capacity of the country will reduce, shifting the PPC curve inward. I think that is clear. 4D. They said, discuss whether or not an aging population is a benefit to an economy. We talk about aging population, we're talking about the population that is becoming old. For me, I said, yes, it is a benefit to the economy. Why? Number one, older people have more knowledge and experience. This implies that they should be considered as economic assets. They add value to the economy because they have experience. And 2, aging population is an indicator of a good standard of living, which means the life expectancy in that country would have increased. Do you get the point here? Yes. The third point I made is that this may also mean that the retirement age may be increased. And as soon as that is done, the supply of labor will increase, output will increase. And the last point I made about it is that it will also reduce the number of dependency ratio, as older people will still be working instead of them retiring at the earliest age. That puts more burden on the younger generation or the younger age. Yes. Is it clear? Yes. So that's all about that.
So, but sometimes the economy doesn't benefit with the age population.
Really?
Yeah, because of the government like paying them pensions,
social benefits.